Okay, so we have a few more people joining. Okay. Andrew, if I can just ask you to keep an eye on the lobby and admit people if they're joining us later. But for now, thank you. For now, let's make a start. So, a very warm welcome, everybody, to the second webinar this year in our new series. This is our fifth series of webinars. And the theme of this series is Acquired Deafblindness, the Stories We Tell. So, for anybody that doesn't know me, my name is Pete Simcock, and I am the chair of ADBN, and I am based in the UK. I am here in the Midlands of the UK. So, a very warm welcome to any new members. I can see some people have very recently joined the network, and it's great to see you here. But also, it's lovely to see some familiar faces and some familiar names, people that have been members of the network for some time. You are all very welcome to the session this afternoon, this morning, or for our speaker this evening. So we're very grateful to Shruti. I'll be introducing Shruti to everyone in a moment. But before I do that, just some housekeeping style information. So if I can ask people to keep themselves muted during the presentation so that we don't get any background noise. The session is being recorded and the recording will go on our YouTube channel afterwards. So your presence here is your consent to that happening. Shruti will speak for around 20, 30, 40 minutes or so, and then there will be time for questions. And if you have any questions, you can put these in the chat on Zoom, or you can sign or speak your question by raising your hand on the system, and we'll invite you to unmute to ask your question. But may I ask, before you ask a question, if you can simply identify yourself and your location? That's very helpful to all of us. So, for example, simply saying, hello, it's Peter from the UK, and then go on to ask your question. So, without further ado, I'm delighted now to introduce our speaker, Shrutilata Singh. Shrutilata Singh is currently working as lead specialist network support at Sense International India, where she leads and supports networks of persons with deafblindness from across India. She also serves as an executive committee member of the Commonwealth Children and Youth Disability Network and as the youth representative for Asia at the World Federation of the Deafblind Youth Network. Shrutilata is a disability rights advocate with lived experience of acquired deafblindness and actively works towards strengthening leadership, participation, and inclusion of persons with deafblindness at both national and international platforms. She holds a bachelor's degree in arts and a diploma in physiotherapy, and has been very active in various and hugely significant activities in the field of deafblindness, including not least the development of the World Health Organization ICF core sets for deafblindness. So, Shruti, if I can hand over to you for your presentation titled "From Signs to Sounds: A New Journey with Technology and Acquired Deafblindness." We look forward to your presentation. Over to you, Shruti.
Hello everyone. Uh, I hope my voice is still clear.
We can hear you, Shruti. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Peter, and thanks for this opportunity to be here with everyone today. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone from around the world. So, when we talk about the acquired deafblindness, earlier I used to describe it as uh, the word progressive does not mean progressing to in a positive sense, but in a very opposite manner. Like day by day, just decrease vision and hearing, just decrease. But now I am looking at it in a very completely another aspect. Like it is like just my vision and hearing just resigning from their job just without any proper notice period. And so it is kind of funny, just like what happens in a office kind of setup things. If an employee just resign without informing prior and just disappear, then the whole office gets shocked. Then where to put the stress? This is what acquired deafblindness is like. Both vision and hearing suddenly disappearing, or with time we don't know what time, the which age or what time they are just going to be away from our life. So it is just like that the journey starts, not just for me but for many others around the world. And what happens after that? It is not just us who are struggling to adapt. Just like that, the example of the office system. Well, the whole office gets shocked, and those who are working closely with that person are the most get affected. But here, the problem is that every our close people get affected. They also have to adapt in terms of communication, in terms of support. It could be lot of things, and in every aspect of life the adaptability is needed. If a person is losing the vision, hearing in a certain age, then what happens after that? When I know many people and even my own experience, um, my hearing just resigned long time back. That is what I'm going to describe it like now. So, but my vision though reduced, I was depending much more on it. If you had asked me to connect with you just a few years back, I would be depending on my colleague Omit or someone to just type it down or sit with me and sign it out, because that was another thing, right? But now it is a completely different thing thanks to technology. So once we understand the acquired deafness, it can be different things. But thanks to the technology that I am with you sharing, not too much dependent. So first thing is that now I'm a person with cochlear implant, something that is kind of it does have too much of misconception till now. And going for this implant wasn't an easy decision for me also, because I had been associated with the information about deafness since long back, and the kind of information that people with deaf blindness themselves share around is like cochlear implant is not good, it just makes you frustrated and all that. If it comes from someone who has lived experience but not actually using it, and then one or two negative experience can be aggravated like that, then we get demotivated to actually go for that. So this was the thing that was on my mind earlier, that it is not going to help me in any way, so I should just avoid it. And I was like, if people have to communicate with me, they should learn sign language and talk to me. But things don't work our way, you know that. So or no, earlier I was lucky that people who were close to me did learn bits of sign language like the alphabets and some simple terms so that I was able to receive communication. So when we talk about communication, it is always a two-way thing. I had speech. I could uh, express myself, though not clear at times. But to understand what the other person is saying, it was a lot of struggle. And along with that came a lot of other things, like being a woman with deafblindness. Being a woman with deafblindness, it is another level of struggle because in developing country like India, there is always an aspect of safety when we talk about accessibility or anything. I know a lot of other women with deafblindness who actually, are confined to one space that is their home only, or have to be supported or accompanied by their family members just because they are now severely deafblind. That means both vision and hearing lost severely. So the safety aspect is always there because there is no proper transport system which is accessible even for other people with disability, and even for those who do not have disability, that is there, but it is there. So we actually, when this gender things intersect, so a lot of other struggle. I I did have to fight a lot with family and others to actually get to be, this kind of freedom that I have now. Because earlier it was kind of my parents were so afraid to send me out of home for long, and then they were like, I should stay with other people with disability or with someone who can take care of me. So here the problem is that people want us to so that we are dependent, but I do not like to be labeled as dependent. So I kind of for this independence, I used to use different technologies earlier, like Google Transcribe to communicate with others. And that was the exact app I was using to communicate with the surgeon who helped me at this cochlear implant when I first met him. And I still remember the communication that I don't, he was telling me that once you get the implant, then you won't need to use this app. You will be able to hear things. And I was like, oh, what is faking? What kind of fake is? Because in my mind, I was like, no, it is never going to be better. My hearing not going to be better. I had kind of accepted thing, but so, but slowly, because my mom is a doctor and she pushed me for more consultations and then I had to surrender. Okay, I agree for this. And even for that, just to get out of the misconception and to understand what exactly is the reality, I decided to get in touch with others who actually had the cochlear implant and how was the experience. Then slowly I realized that it is actually a good thing to go for, though there be some ups and downs. No. So that is how I decided, made the final decision to go for this surgery. And the hardest part was selecting an appropriate device that would be helpful. But I'm grateful that my family supported with that as well. Um, so the assistive technology is, very, very expensive, especially for the developing countries also. But I'm grateful for my parents for figuring it out. No, but that is the I hadn't expected that I would be able to hear this clearly when people or others, people talking, and I still remember the first time. I still remember the first time when this was switched on. Before that, the doctor had asked me this one thing, what do you expect? I said, I expect nothing. because because in my mind, I knew that it would be a long struggle. So first few things I got it wrong, but then I was able to catch it. And the moment that made me most happy was after so many years, I could hear my mother's phone ringing, many sounds that I could not hear earlier. But then, it is technology, and it is not like a magic wand that automatically just helps us in one single night. Well, we have to train our brain. It is like a lot of therapy for my assistive device as well as my brain also. Hmm. I being a trained physiotherapist, I know that rehabilitation is very much important, whatever we do. Hmm. But no, the changes are positive as well as negative. So I will start with the negative. Before I share the positive, because so earlier it was like uh, things too like quiet. I could hear sounds or noise, but I could not understand people. So I actually didn't had much fight with my friends because I didn't know what they were saying. But now since I can hear, since I can understand the pitch also in which they are talking, I'm like, please slow down. I know you are too noisy. It is like a everyday thing. Sometimes I tell them, yeah, it was good not able to hear earlier. but it is good also to be able to hear, but having this technology which can be switched off when we actually need it is again a blessing. um I I have been facing some issue with the technology. So um, it used to get switched off on its own, and I had to restart it. When my colleague were, especially the senior, when they tried to talk, to tell something, I used to joke that my digital ear is on auto reject mode because it does not want to hear what you want to say. But that is the reality because I can't just say that I'm having issues or so um some at the end of the day we have to realize that these are again not natural things. It is something man-made. It is an electronic device. It can get damaged or anything at any moment. This device has given me a lot of independence, a lot more choice that I did not had earlier. Or even when we talk about entertainment, that we don't usually know, and people with limited hearing and vision now actually do not have much options. So that was the life I was living earlier. But now I can hear, since I can hear with this latest technology, again, it is another blessing because now, uh, but I think because I am using the technology of Bluetooth also, so I don't need a headphone like you are to be able to hear from my laptop. It is just the sound waves just going inside the head without the need of anything, any other device. So it is good in one way. But then uh, we have to remember that it comes with a lot of expense, and then it is an electronic device. It can this uh, what do I say? It is like sometimes it is like a toxic relationship with this kind of technology. It can just stop working when the time is critical. I have faced this situation sometimes, especially when it's raining, and I realize that I've forgotten spare batteries or something, and then just yesterday I was having a discussion with the person from the cochlear company who told me that I was lucky to have this bilateral cochlear implant. And she told me about one girl who had to appear for her entrance exam. And she could not concentrate much on her exam because the day before her cochlear implant stopped working. And her focus was more on that. Just imagine a time when you're supposed to be focusing on something critical and then you realize the thing that you were so much depending on for the information suddenly was out. So here I would like to point out something really worth it, that though technology in any way is helpful for us, we should not get completely dependent on it. Just like in relationship, if we get too dependent on the other person emotionally or anyway, then if that person just stop responding, then what happens to our emotions? We just break down completely. It is just like that. We have to remember that there is some alternate option also that we should not lose touch with, and that's my and this is the exact thing that gives me nightmares sometimes. Like just a few examples, like I travel a lot for work, and whenever the flight attendant gives that safety instruction, when the thing about flight landing and water, ocean, river, something comes up, then the first thing that comes in my mind is like, oh, if that happens, what will I do? Because my cochlear implant, my sound processor has become my life now, and water will just destroy it. So you might find it funny, but that's the kind of question that comes in my mind because it has become part of me. That is not natural, that is man-made, but still part of me that helps me be independent in lot of ways. I find it safer to understand when communication is going on, when I am able to hear, when I am able to understand. One thing I would like to point out that the though sign language interpretation is much important for people, it will never convey things the way you get from a verbal communication. I am lucky here that I now have can understand two perspectives. First is about when I did not had this kind of hearing, when I was almost totally deafblind. So I understand from that perspective, and now because I got this hearing 60-70%, now I can understand other perspective also. What this might thing. And some people tell me that now I don't belong to the disability category, but I belong to both 50-50, like kind of thing. But then again, uh, because so I am able to understand, I think I understand a lot of things and able to think strategically. Because earlier that was a completely different thing. Now I'm realizing other things like what exactly life is like. I can't afford to just let it go. And what I was telling you is that when I was depending on sign language, I could understand the conversation that was being communicated to me. But the emotions that the person who was speaking can never be communicated through sign language. Now I can just if I hear someone, I through the pitch, through the voice, that type of voice and everything, I can understand the emotions, and that emotional part is very much important in communication. That I have understood. The and people with deafblindness, because we get only from one person, well, through interpretation, what happens is that we get to understand only one perspective, that is the perspective of that interpreter only. So when we talk about people having not being able to understand things, it is not that we are not able to think like that. It is just that we had not been given the chance to experience it, to understand it. To So these are the things that now I am realizing, just because I have the blessing of this technology that is enabling me to hear again, to relearn things, and also to help me establish my own identity that I once thought I almost lost. So, this thing is, I'm so grateful that it is helpful. And it's not just the cochlear implant. There are too many other than this. Like for others, it could be the orbit reader, also the screen reader that helps them communicate and everything. That becomes everything for them. But again, the problem will be the same. The moment it will disconnect or stop working, uh, they will again be limited to only those who will be able to communicate with them. So along with technology, we must remember that it is also human support that is required. Just imagine what life would be like if accessibility, inclusivity was not just a word but a reality. No, we are encouraged to learn some cultural things, some spoken things like language, and others, it is mandatory for us. But then we are not to mandate. We don't have the mandate to learn what exactly is accessibility, how it can be helpful for all of us, and how accessibility, if we convert it to usability, it will benefit all of us. And so it is important to understand that the with technology lot of other things comes up, and it is not just my experience. I think it is lot of other people's experience also, that we have to we have to maintain this technology, we have to be very careful. And another thing about this is the budget part, that we have to be careful about having something, some budget in place, so that for any emergency situation we are able to tackle it. And we understand how to do have some alternate options. If this technology breaks down, then what can be the one? I'm lucky again that I'm still working at an inclusive space in Sense India, where other colleagues, at least they know the alternate communication option, that is sign language. And I also, even when I am not using the sound processor, especially when I have to go to sleep, I have to take it out, and other times also. So when my friends and my family have to communicate something, they have to use alternate option. No, because I can't have it 24 by 7, and that's a reality, because it is again a technology, electronic device. So someone asked me once, when how will you know if you are not able to hear when you are sleeping and there is some emergency phone call? No, it made me think on that, but then I know I can't do much. It. So these are the things that is still there. But then, no, looking at the positive side, I moved from sign language to hearing the sounds again, understanding, relearning, and training my brain again to adjust to the noisy environment. It is only now that I again realize how noisy this real world is. Otherwise, it was so quite earlier. I did had the inspiration to think a lot of other things, write down and write articles and other things. But I think now, each time I actually want to have that kind of inspiration, I still have that option of taking out the sound processor, going into complete silence. Maybe it is a good thing that I can just turn it off when I don't want to hear something, and or if I want to hear, then I have to focus more. So that's kind of thing. So, but along with all that, we must remember that assistive technology is very much important, and there is still not much of insurance so provided by the government, by the insurance company, at least not in India that I know of, not sure about other countries. But when it is has become a part of our body, for part of something that part of our body and part of something that is helping us be independent, then why not have this insurance? I think. And other than this, I would also like to highlight here that there are so many assistive technology around the world, but then most of the people who actually need it are not aware about it or are trying to avoid it because of the misconceptions that is going around. I could have gone for this surgery long time back, maybe 8 or 9 years back already, if this misconception been no hadn't influenced me. But then again, it's fine. I now understand two perspective. That is what I have told myself. But then there could be other people who would be benefiting from all this. But why the information is not available for them? So now I think it's high time that we people around the world should be coming together to create something that has the kind of accessible information on different assistive technology that can be helpful for people with deafblindness no as per their need, because each of our needs differs. And there we should be adding what are the misconceptions and what are the real facts along with some positive case stories. At least that's what I'm thinking of and planning to start at Suns India hopefully soon, so that something can be there at one place and it can be accessed by many other people. So my journey, as other people call it, inspiration, but I know that it is not because I get irritated with that word, but it is just that because because I did what they do when I did not have this hearing and vision. But then I also keep fighting for to be able to do what I want to do, just like them, just having the equal rights. We could talk about equality, but then when someone just considers you or tells you that you are inspiration, does not show the equality. The society is still not like empathic. No, not still having this kind of uh, thought process that what exactly is equality, right? Otherwise, we would be stuck here trying to figure out what is there in the world and where we are stuck at. So, I'm I'm lucky to have this technology and the support I need around. But then, a lot of things that we need to understand and we need to build our identity around. Um, I keep joking about my cochlear implant now that I call it my ear. And the most funniest thing I understand is that I just tell people that I run on batteries. Because that is the reality again, because we are using technology and a technology that is helpful for us. So, um, lot of things I don't Hmm. So that is the thing that I wanted to share with you. The journey has been amazing from day one itself, but it did need a lot of kind of I think a lot of effort to kind of fit in the society. Um, and um, other thing other than that, what no, I say, it was good to be able to hear again, especially my nephew and niece who keeps talking so cutely. When And my experience, I also guide others because of the misconception, even the parents of the children or the people with deafness themselves are not ready to go for implant. But then I tell them the positive side. That actually the side effects chances are very less. But then one or two negative stories is just making people think about that. But we don't look at the positive side. So we need to think about what exactly can happen if we are able to be independent. Now, if I have to tell you what changes it has brought in my life, well, it is lot of things. Earlier, people used to tell me, "No, here you can't hear. Then how can you speak?" And I have to just to understand this line. I have to make efforts. So I have to tell them how the different methods of communication. But now I can hear it. I can communicate directly with the people. Otherwise, I was depending on someone who would just interpret in sign language and then understand and communicate. Or the communication would be so slow that half of the time would go in trying to understand what exactly the person wanted to communicate. I still remember that 7 hours long conversation with my friend after the I got no this cochlear implant done. She was like, now is the time that when 5 minute conversation is going in 5 minute only. Earlier it was used to take 1 hour just to make you understand what I wanted to share. So this is the major changes. And as I shared earlier, that when I am able to understand the emotions, it now also when people are talking, it is another kind of exposure also. So there are a lot of things. Now I'm able to talk to my sister, my parents every day, which was missing completely from my life. And I am able to contribute more at work. Now I can use the screen reader audio output. I can use the online classes, lot of things that was not possible earlier. Through one technology. And I'm happy that I decided to invest there. And they decided to turn a deaf ear just to the misconceptions so that I could benefit from it. So that is the story here. And if you want to know more about what my thoughts, you're welcome to read my articles at LinkedIn. Shrutilata Singh is what you can type to get to it, and I write articles, though I have not written for some time, but I will write something again. I try to share my thoughts, experience, and other people's experience also. I try to keep it short and easy to understand kind of things. So thanks a lot, Peter and others.
Shruti, thank you very much for a really interesting presentation. I really enjoyed your sense of humor that I thought came across so well in your presentation, but also a very moving, a very personal account of the journey that you have been on. And it was a real joy for you to join you by hearing about that journey. And I've certainly been scribbling away lots of notes on things that you said that I found really interesting. Does anybody have any questions they would like to ask Shruti about her experiences? Does anybody want to have a question for Shruti? If people do have a question, if you can put it in the chat for us, please, or just raise your hand on Zoom and unmute yourself and ask your question. Anybody have any questions? Well, perhaps I will start us off with a question. Shruti, there were lots of things you said that I thought were interesting. And I made a note, I smiled when you described a toxic relationship with technology, which I thought was interesting. But what I wanted to ask you about was your family and friends when it was first mentioned or it was first thought that you might have cochlear implants. How did your family and friends react to that?
Oh, sorry, you will have to repeat. And you know
Mm,
this thing that I have to keep saying this. Can you repeat, please? Can you repeat,
of
please? Kind of
course,
things.
of course. When you when you first thought about having a cochlear implant, how did your family and friends react?
Uh, oh, if I'm right, you asked about when I decided to go for cochlear implant. How did my family and friends react, or after the surgery?
How did they react when you first decided to have it?
Actually, it was my family who pushed me for it. So the
Ah,
reaction came
okay.
from them, not myself. So my mother got to know about this camp, awareness camp, and she forced me to. But because of that misconception, I was like, no, I will not go. But then she pushed me to it. Then I said, okay, I will go and talk, but I am not going for that. That was the kind of reaction I had, the opposite thing. And then no, later when I was sharing this with my close friends, they were like, "Don't worry about the expense. We all are here to support you." The most positive things you can imagine, yeah. And
Yeah.
another thing they said that if technology can help you, then why not go for it? That is the reaction I got.
A very positive reaction. Shruti, you mentioned misconceptions about cochlear implants. What are the misconceptions of them in India?
Okay, just I think 6, 7, 8 years back, was reading someone with kind of total deafblindness was writing about this that there has a child used to get irritated after their parent got him cochlear implant, and another thing about an adult who also had cochlear implant, that people are not no not to kind of uh, cooperative when he does not have the sound processor on. And also they were saying that these type of things are not good. It just makes you confused, and it is like it is not helpful much. You should rather concentrate on sign language. This is
Mhm.
another misconception. But you know the irony thing, this whole thing was shared by people who never opted for it.
Okay, thank you. Shruti, we have some comments in the chat, which I will read out. Um, the first from, excuse my pronunciation, Taiti Kaupinen from Finland, who says, it was a great and interesting speech. Thank you for sharing your story. And we have a comment as well from Victor in Uganda. Thank you very much, Shruti. I have enjoyed your story. I certainly agree that interaction with technology leads to amazing achievement. I will share your story with my students with acquired deafblindness who are encountering many challenges. We've got another question in the chat, but before I go to that, I can see Carolyn from Germany has a question for you, Shruti. Carolyn.
Thank you, Peter. And thank you, Shruti, for your presentation. Can you hear me well? Okay, perfect. So I'm a rehabilitation scientist in the field of deafblindness and technology and assistive technologies. And for my PhD, I did some interviews with deafblind individuals and asked them about their experiences. And I think they are very, or yeah, kind of similar or internationally similar, maybe in the acquired deafblindness community. And I just was wondering how the rehabilitation process after the implantation went in India. How are the professionals used to have a deafblind client, or is there any are there any complications when you have the rehabilitation after the implantation?
That I think that can be answered by the professionals who work with them. But as far as I'm aware, I know few other people with deafblindness also who opted for this implant. At first, even I was skeptical about how I was going to train myself back for this, because I know other people who only have hearing problem. Well, how they practice is they someone reads and they follow the lines, they can see. But what about us? We have to put extra effort. That now, for me, mm, the rehabilitation classes was just 2 or 3 sessions that I had attended. Rest of all, I had to put the extra effort on my own. And again, I'm lucky that I had my colleagues, my friends, my family to support in that. It is not about how much the sessions, how many sessions you are able to get, but rather how much you are able to practice the relearning sounds. Because even though I am a person with acquired deafblindness, so I had to learn every single sound. The sounds that I used to earlier and the sounds that I hear now are different. These things cannot be shared by the professionals earlier. I know it now, it was mechanic and kind of thing, but they guided me how to uh, how to you know relearn and how to understand things. They made adaptations like they used to write in big fonts and other things. My colleague Omita, who is supporting me right now, uh, also was there pre-implant session with me once, so that she could share with me. She could help me with the communication part. I was lucky one, but then others who don't have no this opportunity to learn sign language, or someone who knew alternate mode of communication, no, to guide them, might not be lucky. Again, I would say that lot of information I missed out even before the surgery because I could not hear. So the this professional pattern about deafblindness, yes, that is limited as far as my knowledge is concerned. But then, no, here I am connected with the people from the Cochlear India company and audiologists to understand things. And then one more thing here I would like to point out that the cochlear implant maintenance part is designed keeping in mind only the hearing impaired people needs. That is, they can see visual input when the battery is on charging, light is there. When it is in dryer, then it also has some light there after which we can. I have reached this concern that if I go completely blind, then how will I maintain? They be able to maintain this. There has to be alternate options also. So a lot of things still hasn't been made, keeping in mind the problem of about people with deafblindness.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shruti, and thank you, Carolyn, for a really interesting question. And I think your response, Shruti, reminds me of how, unfortunately, a lot of technology is often based on single sensory impairment, and this renders it difficult. And I think you gave a really good example there in relation to your implants and how much the maintenance of those is relying on sight, assuming that that the person is deaf but sighted rather than deafblind. Shruti, we have another question in the chat. This is from Ashikul Islam. Is cochlear implant useful to people who have it after the age of 7? Especially people with congenital sensory neural deafness, because we know about language development and those sorts of things. What's your view on that, Shruti, as somebody that has had a cochlear implant after the age of 7?
Uh, Again, that is a very technical and question that will be answerable by the doctors only. But I can tell you one thing that when you're talking about uh, congenital deafblindness, then I would say that the earlier, the better, because language has to be developed. And even the children who do not have disability, they learn the language. When they learn it at an earlier stage, they are able to communicate much better. So, keeping that in mind, it has been developed. I shared earlier that I am a person with acquired deafblindness, progressive deafblindness. So my hearing was kind of okay earlier, but it reduced with time. So at the age of 30, it worked for me. So for people who lost their hearing later in life, the cochlear implant will work, given that they are able to practice and rehabilitate better. But for congenital, it will work only to certain extent. And again, what I have understood through my doctors is this one thing that it is not just the surgery that everything depends on. It depends on multiple factors. So like the structure of the inner ear, when everything, the implant that is implanted inside, its position, then the device, it is not just a single feature thing. Just like our smartphone, our other electronic device, many companies for cochlear implant are making this different kind of device. So when we are trying to opt for a device, we should not go for what is the cheapest thing. We should go for what features are we going to need it. Like I said, I am using this Bluetooth thing. So keep knowing in mind a lot of things. So before I had to go for this implant, I had to go for multiple tests. So one of these, that was MRI, but that was to understand, for the doctors to understand if the nerve is still intact or not. So that, because it is the main thing that would have helped me if the audio nerve was totally damaged or destroyed, or what do you call it, drained out, then it would not have been helpful for me to have this cochlear implant. And then again, I know that there are others who even after changing device may not benefit. So multiple factors are there. I can not say that just because of certain age it may not work. For me also, it was kind of the gamble. A lot of money was involved. One thing my audiologist had told me clearly that it will work, but to what extent it would work, we are not sure. Even he was not so confident about my case. It was very difficult case for them. But then my family told me again, I'm lucky one in that also. That don't worry about it. No, the expense and everything. We are just trying. Uh, unless we try it, we won't be able to make out if it is going to help or not. So we have to try it.
Thank you, Shruti, and thank you, Ashikal, for the question. I'm conscious of time, but does anybody else have any questions or comments for Shruti? We have a comment here, I think, from Carolyn Shruti in Germany. In the rehabilitation process after the implantation in Germany, there are training apps to get used to the new hearing. One participant in my study told me that the app was not really accessible to her as she could not invert the colors. So there is also still a lot of work to do to enhance the rehabilitation process. Thanks for that, Carolyn. Really interesting. And I'm going to be very naughty now and say, hopefully we will have a webinar from you, Carolyn, on your study at some point in the future. Any other questions or comments from Shruti before I bring the session to a close? Any other questions? Okay, well, perhaps Shruti, you'll allow me to finish with a final question, because I was really struck with some of your comments that clearly, for me, and you went on to talk about this explicitly, about identity, and you talked about the cochlear implant being part of you. It's not natural, but it's part of you now. And you talked about people querying whether you are still part of the disability community, perhaps part of the deafblind community still. And I wondered, having been through the journey, now having cochlear implants, how do you identify, how would you identify or describe yourself in one sentence?
Well, yeah, so for the conclusion part, you have made a very difficult question.
Yeah, sorry about
Peter?
that.
No problem, no problem. So, in one sentence, I would say that I got another chance in life. Another very kind of, I have got another chance to live a life that I wanted to live for. Now I am living my dreams. Once there was one time I almost thought I won't be able to hear music again. That was my life once. So now I can. So it is just like I'm got a chance to live life, another life. You can in same life, but living it twice, second time in a very good way, better way, with something a blessing.
Well, Shruti, thank you. That's a very uplifting and a very positive way to finish the session this afternoon. So, Shruti, may I take this opportunity to thank you for sharing your story with us. I think these webinars, I always enjoy these webinars, but I think they're particularly enriching when we hear personal accounts and personal experiences. So we're very grateful to you for spending your evening telling us about your journey. I'd also, as always, like to thank Deafblind UK, who provide the Zoom platform for us to use. So my thanks to Deafblind UK, and in particular to Andrew, who Deafblind UK, who sets all the calls up and does all the technology for us, because it's very wise not to leave that to me. And thank you, of course, to all our members for joining the webinar this afternoon, evening, or morning. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as me. And Teresa, thank you for your comment. Teresa Tancock in Canada, thank you so much. So very enlightening. And I agree, Teresa. Thank you, Shruti. Our next webinar in the series will be on Wednesday, the 30th of September at 4:30 Central European Time. And the title of that presentation is Family Psychoeducation, Usher Syndrome. And our speaker for that webinar will be Sonja van der Molengraft from the Netherlands. Sonja is a researcher at Royal Kentalis and the University of Groningen in the Netherlands. So we look forward to that webinar on the 30th of September. Between now and then, we do hope to get our next edition of the network's newsletter out to members, so do look out for that. But for now, Shruti, thanks very much again for a really interesting and a really humorous in places presentation, which I really enjoyed, and I'm sure all those attending have enjoyed. And I wish you all a very good evening, afternoon, or day. Thank you very much, everyone, and take care.